Every morning that I wake up, I thank God for a brand new day because of your grace and mercy along the way, along the way. In the book of John, in the 19th chapter, in the 30th verse, it says that after he received the drink, Jesus said, "It is finished." And after that, he bowed his head and he gave up his spirit. When Jesus surrendered, it wasn't because he had lost the battle. Actually, he was victorious. The purpose of Jesus surrendering his life was so that we can be reconciled back to God. When I think about that, I think about how my life was and the way things went. I was introduced to God and church at a very young age, and I went to church, but I didn't know God. I did Easter programs, but I didn't know God. As I went through my life, I'm trying to figure out what my path was. I made a lot of choices and decisions that at the time I thought were in my best interest, but in the end, it was like I was digging a hole, creating confusion and dysfunction in my life, to the point where I didn't know myself anymore. I specifically remember a time where I was in the middle of doing something that I'm not so proud of, and I remember feeling the Spirit of God saying, "I don't recognize you anymore." Of course, God knows who I am, but what he was telling me was that I didn't look like what he had created me to be. And that set with me. So I started looking in the mirror. I stopped blaming people for what was going on in my life. And I really started looking at myself, asking myself about the choices and the decisions that I was making in my life. And so I started going on this journey to try to get things together. I specifically remember going to my mother because I didn't want to answer my phone. I didn't want to answer my door. I didn't even want to open up the mail because everything that I had going on was out of control. I was about to be getting evicted. I was in so much debt. My relationship with my family, it was okay, but it wasn't where it needed to be. So I went to go and talk to my mother one day. And I said, "Mom, it seems like every time I try to get over the hump, or it seems like things are getting better in my life, it seems like something is always happening. I make money, it seems like God will put holes in my pocket. We get in a relationship for the wrong reason, the relationship didn't work." I remember my mother looking me in my face and she said, I can't remember the exact words, but she said, "Son, you need to give God some time." And when I left my mother's house that day, I started thinking about how I could, start trying to get my life together. So what I did was I thought about the person that I know who was in church the most, and that was my grandmother. So I went to go visit my grandmother, and I told my grandmother, I didn't really need the music. I didn't need the excitement of church. I said, "What day do you guys have a Bible study?" So she told me, I believe it's on Tuesday nights. They went to church on Tuesday nights, Fridays, and Sundays, twice on Sundays. So I went to the Bible study with my grandmother, and I started learning and understanding more about God, because I had always been in church as a kid, but I didn't know God. In every service that I would go to, especially on the Sunday services, I would just be crying. I was so frustrated with where I was in life, that everything was so out of control that all I could do was cry, and I was just extremely unsatisfied with what was going on in my life. But I remember one particular Friday. It's ironic that it happened to be a Friday. I was in a Friday service, and at this service, this was the service where I had pretty much cried all the tears that I could cry out of my eyes. And I was just like, man, I can't do this no more. I'm like, God, I need you to help me. And I remember feeling like the Spirit of God was wrapping its arms around me, saying, you're gonna be okay. I got you. There's a lot of things that I don't understand, but that is something that nobody could ever take away from me, is when I felt the Spirit of God talking to me. And at that point, that's when I felt like I began to know God. I wrote this song, and it's so apropos to what's going on right now. And in the song that I initially started singing in the beginning, called Brand New Day, the first verse says, I'm sitting here looking over my life and all of the things that I've been through. There was so much pain. I asked God why. He said, son, the problem is you. He said, I've tried to give you the path to life, but you tried to do it on your own. It's already hard when you walk with me, but so much harder when you walk alone. So after I felt that touch from God, I didn't immediately surrender everything, but a whole lot in my life, it changed. A lot of places I didn't go anymore, a lot of things that I didn't do anymore, but I began to know God more and more, to the point where I isolated myself from everybody. I was singing with this R&B group, and we were in bars and stuff, and I'm not knocking music. I love all kind of music or whatever, but the place that I was in my life, I needed to get away from everybody. I just needed time for just me and God. So that's what I did. I went to work, I went to church, and I went home. And I had to get my spirit together in order for me to be able to deal with everything that I was dealing with. So the second part of my song says, forgive me, Lord, for I have sinned, and I know that I've let you down. I submit my life unto you. I give up, I throw in the towel. He said that was all I've been waiting for you to give your life to me. That's the reason, my son, that I shed my blood and I died for you on Calvary. So every morning that I wake up, I thank God for a brand new day because of His grace and mercy along the way. So I had surrendered a lot of my life to God. And that's when I began to start understanding what my purpose was. And I guess that's why I tried to help people, that I'm a deacon today, is because I had to surrender. I had to give up my way of thinking, my way of doing my finances, my way of trying to handle relationships. I was doing all of that without consultation with God. So now, every single thing that I do, I try to pray about it and ask God in what direction I should go. And it's a daily walk. Just like He surrendered His life for all of us, He's calling us to surrender our lives to Him and accept His sacrifice. So every day is a day for us to try to get it right. We all fall short. We all make mistakes. But each and every day is a walk with God and a chance for us to surrender more and more to the God that loved us even more than we love ourselves. So as we reflect on Good Friday and the sacrifice of Jesus Christ and what He did for all humanity, I want you to think about what are some things in your life that you need to turn over to God. We come to the altar, we pray about things, and we're supposed to lay those things down, but a lot of times we pick them back up because we don't fully trust God. Just like myself, I'm asking all of us to fully trust God, to fully surrender, to fully trust Him in every aspect of our lives, so we can walk in the purpose that He created us for. Think about that. God bless you.